What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Turn the Jets podcast. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPaul11 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the whole nine yards. Joined for a nice Thursday edition here. We're kicked off into June. Me and Antwan Staley are going to chop it up. He's unfortunately wearing a Red Sox hat, which I'm going to let slide. But I want to talk. We're going to hop on here, talk OTAs for about 15 minutes. Antwan, how we doing? And that hat's disgusting.
I would is just for you since I know how big of a Yankee fan you are. But
Oh yeah.
I'm doing good, man. How you been?
I'm not bad, man. I'm not bad. I think this is a fun time of year in a lot of senses because a lot of it's kind of a lot of BS going on, right? In terms of, we're talking about unpadded practices. We're talking about holdouts from guys who everyone kind of knew was going to hold out. I guess I'll start there. You talked to, I don't know, you talked to maybe someone, I saw something on my timeline maybe a week or two ago about Hassan Reddick, and you kind of talked about, hey, this is his way of saying, like, I still want to get paid the same way I want to get paid in Philly. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that, and then we can kind of talk a little, Rodgers and practice notes?
Yeah, basically, I mean, when he got traded to the Jets, it was like, okay, he had, like, from what I understand, he assumed he was going to get a new deal done. And it seems like that was, like, I think everybody thought that was going to happen at some point, and it hasn't. And I think a lot of the reasons is because maybe the salary that he's commanding, the Jets don't necessarily have the most cap flexibility at the moment, too. But, I mean, for somebody that's put up four seasons of double-digit sacks in a row, I mean, yeah, you got it. That's the market. The market is the market. So, I mean, but I mean, I'm not surprised he's held out, especially considering like he has no more guaranteed money on his contract. So, yeah, I mean, in a roundabout way, yeah, you're gonna hold it. You're not gonna report for OTAs and optional camp. And he's been working out on his own and getting workout in. And I do expect him to be there for mandatory minicamp next week. If he's not, then he can be fined, subject to fines in regards to that. But I would think he would show up for that just simply because he has not had any communication at all, really, with the team since he's joined. Very minimal, and that could be a way to just get that jump started, especially ahead of training camp.
Yeah, and what do you expect from a contract perspective? I think it's pretty clear. It's like 2 for $50. It's slightly more than Danielle Hunter got by like $250K a
Yeah,
year. But that's the way the market works. It's not going to be Nick Bosa money, $34 million. It's not going to be like Parsons money, and it's also not going to be Bryce Huff money. And
correct.
I think fans are probably going to be like, "Whoa, 2 for $50? That seems crazy." Not really. Danielle Hunter just got 2 for $49, I believe, almost fully guaranteed, if not fully guaranteed,
Yeah,
from Houston. They're the same age. They've had similar production the last 4 years. Reddick slightly better, actually, in terms of production. So
I agree.
is that kind of the number you're expecting to, that 24, 25 million a year short-term deal? I would expect it probably to be, they'll have a bunch of void years, and I'm sure, in there, but to raise this year with guaranteed money and then pretty much fully guaranteed 2025, if
Yeah,
that's how I probably would do it.
yeah. I mean, look, we know the Jets' window is the next couple of years. Like it's 2 year window. We all know that. So yeah, I think 2 year deal, and I was thinking like 55, somewhere 60 mils, somewhere around there, and then most of that being guaranteed. I think that would get him in the building and satisfy him and his representation. I mean, anytime I thought they upgraded when you go from him to Bryce Huff. It's no disrespect to Huff, but Reddick is just a more established veteran that's done it at a higher level for a longer period of time. But yeah, I think that's a good numbers considering that's what the market is. And I think he is a better player at this junction of his career than Hunter, and he deserves that type of money, especially with a team that can use his pass rush to help, especially considering, you lost Bryce Huff, you lost John fucking Myers, who, he may not have lost a lot production wise, but I think the veteran leadership might be more of a, loss for the Jets there. But you still need somebody that can, bring down quarterbacks regularly. And I think that's definitely what Reddick can do on a consistent basis.
Yeah, look, I think the loss of JFM is something that a lot of dirty work, a lot of positional flexibility, a lot of leadership, and was a productive player nonetheless. I
Yeah.
mean, especially against the run. Um, in terms of that, we talk about extensions. I think DJ Reed, Michael
Hmm.
Carter, even Tyler Conklin are guys that get mentioned. Whether it's a fan base, by the beat, by people like myself, kind of caught in between there. Talking about some of those guys, I would bet, if I was a betting man, I would say Carter is the most likely extended before the season, just because I think there might be some overcompensation there of, none of the Joe Douglas picks outside of Quinn, well, he's not even Quinn Williams. That's none of the Joe Douglas picks, have signed multi-year extensions
Correct.
yet. Carter, it might be an overcompensation. Hey, you let Huff walk, who's a fan favorite. You can't let Carter walk. It's a premium spot. He's much younger than Reed. And I'm not so sure he's just not a better player in general at his specific spot. Right? They're pretty comparable, right? They're both very good.
Yeah.
I would be pretty shocked if they extend Reed at this point. It just, you can't pay all three really. And Conklin, I think they'll probably realistically wait and see how the year plays out. If I was them, I'd rather get a deal done now and have him and Ruckert on good money combined for like $12 million for the next 2 or 3 years. But I'm not the GM. So do you expect any of those three potentially get extended, or is it really just Reddick and then those guys might be, mid-season, after the season type of guys?
That's probably my thinking too. If it was up to me, I think learning from last year would be the best benefit for the Joe Douglas and the Jets, because Bryce Huff was a guy that you could have signed, I think, for a good amount of money last year, and you wouldn't have broke the bank.
If you told me last offseason, right, he may get signed a $4 million tender. If you told me last offseason the Jets offered Huff 3 for 12, he might have taken it. 3 for 15
at the time.
And now he's 3. Now it's 3 for 51 that he ended up getting, right? So that's the way the market works. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but then his production just kept going up, and then he priced himself out. That's basically what happened, and we knew that. I knew that was gonna happen, after the deadline last year, when he just kept playing very well, and the Jet, it was no offer there, and I was like, at the end of the season, where Bryce was like, "Well, I'm not gonna take a hometown discount." At that point, you kind of knew, like, it was a done deal. So I think learning from history, I would try to sign Carter like before training camp even got started. That way, you're done with it. You can move on and also address the Reddick deal. What I expect to happen, I think Reddick is probably more of a higher priority for them, and then they'll deal with everything else kind of later on. But the risk you run is like you may lose Reed and Carter, and then all of a sudden now that puts more pressure on Sauce Gardner. Even though Sauce can handle it, like he's one of if arguably the best cornerback in football, but that second spot is going to be very vacant if you don't have either one of those guys. So I think Reddick is probably higher on the priority list, just what I understand right now at the moment.
No, it makes a ton of sense. I want to talk about actual practice here. Again, everything with a grain of salt. We are looking at May and June practices. We are looking at not everyone always in attendance for every single one. Shorts and T-shirts. They're in helmets, which is almost shocking. Talking to a lot of the guys, like they are running these pretty similar to camp level practices in terms of the actual intensity of the drills and things like that. Again, it's not a camp practice fully padded and hitting, but they're not. People aren't fucking around on 7-on-7s on team drills and stuff like that. I want to start with Rodgers. We don't have to talk about Rodgers the whole time. I want to talk about some of the other guys and things like that. But how's he looked? How's the blister? Is his heel clicking properly according to Dolphins Twitter? Is Rodgers getting is he getting COVID toe and vaccinated and doing all these different things mid drop back? Like how's all that stuff working?
It's funny. I get it like from both sides because we cover the Dolphins and then I'll cover the Jets, so I kind of see both sides are taking it. But obviously, it was overblown, the blister situation. He practiced. He finished the rest of practice and he was fine. Like I think Rodgers has been sharp in practices. I think he's been putting the ball accurately there. Might have missed 1 or 2 throws since we've been there. But that's all. I think he looks every bit of the guy that you expect him to be, and he is going to be. I'm not worried at all about Aaron Rodgers at all. Like some people think that they are, consider his age and the injury that he's coming off of. I'm more worried about other aspects of the team, whether it be a Tyron Smith or how the offensive line is going to hold up, and other players too, because you're relying on a lot of players that had injury histories. And beyond, Rodgers doesn't necessarily have an injury history. He just had a freak injury that happened to him. But he looks every bit like the guy you thought he was going to be anyway. So I'm not worried at all there. He's been sharp. He's been throwing the ball with precision. It just I think the chemistry with Garrett is getting more and more rapport. Alan Lazard, we'll see how he shakes out because he's really been struggling there too. But I would venture to guess Aaron would love him on the team simply because the familiarity with just having a target there in addition to Garrett and everything like that. But Rodgers has been everything as good as advertised, if not better.
Yeah, no, like I think I don't doubt the arm, and he said the other day, I think it was on Adam Schein's podcast. I'm not entirely positive. I was either that or on the Jets team one that he's about 90% right now, which makes sense.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah,
90% makes sense, but he looked like he was like 60% healthy in December, But it was obviously different, right? He's just doing dropbacks. I think he was like he could play because guys play in their 50% healthy,
Yeah,
40% healthy. That's the difference. I saw some talk shows that were like, oh, well, he's only 90% now. He obviously wouldn't have played during the season. They're not the same thing. Being like he's talking like 90% to the health he was going into camp last year, right? Like
correct.
that's what he's highlighting. I think the arm looks every bit as good. Do I think there's one or two like? Do I think every rep matters right now for him? Where every rep you build confidence. There's a couple reps where he's moving around the pocket, making throws, and like that's important because you got to build trust in that Achilles. He can say whatever he wants, and he basically said it. He's like, I need these reps, and he's gotten those. You mentioned Garrett Wilson. I don't want to necessarily just hit on some of the obvious guys. Who stood out to you? We've gotten a lot of Eric Watts hype. We've gotten a lot of
Braylon Allen.
A lot of Braylon Allen. Running backs without pads and D linemen are always fun.
I was gonna say Braylon Allen definitely because he's been getting a lot of run with the ones because Brees hasn't necessarily been out there. So Braylon, I think just the confidence that they have in him right there, that kind of sticks out to me that he's running with the ones already. I'm like, okay, yeah, he looks good. I mean, you see his tape in Wisconsin, you're thinking, okay, he's a dynamic bat that can make some things happen, but the catching ability like stood out to me more than anything. I mean, just the 50-50 contested ball in practice on Tuesday was like, wow, okay, that's a catch that some receivers don't even make. That's how contested it was. Like it was in traffic and coverage, and the fact that he brought that down and held onto the football, I think that's impressive. And then this offense, they love running backs that can catch the ball out the backfield. It may take them a long time to actually utilize the running backs in the offense, but they do like running backs that can do a lot of different things. So to have a guy like that in addition to Brees there, so it's not so much on his plate because I felt late last year you knew where they were going. Like Garrett, Brees, like they were just going to give the ball off to their weapons, and they probably waited a little bit long to do that. But now you have more of a variety of weapons when Mike Williams gets healthy, Tyler Conklin, obviously. You hope you can get something out of Alan Lazard too, Malachi Corley there, and then you add Allen to addition to that. I think it's gonna really improve that offense immensely next year. But yeah, he's definitely somebody that stood out. And then Fashanu definitely getting the reps there.
I was just gonna ask you how Zolu looked in terms. Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about that.
He was good. He was definitely good taking steps for Tyron Smith on Tuesday there. Tyron was just kind of off to the side on the stationary bike there. But, yeah, I think he was, like, really, really good and very sharp there, just his pass coverage and everything. Everything that you saw at Penn State, the dominant player that he was, yeah, he was definitely every bit of that.
No, it makes a ton of sense. Last two things here I want to kind of ask you about. One, I was going to ask you about Olusa. I guess biggest, obviously we got mandatory minicamp next week, and it'll be a little bit more ramped up. But again, pretty similar to what we've been seeing.
Yeah.
The thing you're most optimistic about, probably going into this mini 5-6 week break here, and thing you're still most concerned about that might hamper this team. You mentioned a little bit earlier the injuries, but I guess thing you're most optimistic about leaving the offseason, officially behind us, and thing you're most optimistic and then I guess pessimistic about.
Well, I think, optimism. I think definitely, I think the defense can still find rooms to grow and improve. I mean, they went from 5th to 3rd in yards allowed last year. I mean, gave up a little bit more points per game, but that's to be expected considering, the quarterback situation that happened last year. So, yeah, I think their defense is going to be really, really good, too, in addition to an improving offense. I think, my skepticism and pessimism probably still on the offensive line. You feel like they've improved, and they have. But, if people start to get hurt, miss some time, then you wonder what that kind of looks like. Because we've seen the last couple of years where, you had 11 different starters in 2022. And then last year when you had 13, 14 different combinations in 17 games, you're just worried about the depth outside of that. And then can they, sustain, the level of play that you have to, especially when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers coming off a significant injury like that. And you're still worried about his mobility moving forward too. I mean, it's easy to when you're out there with shorts and kind of like t-shirts out there and no pads, and you can move around a little bit. When no live bullets get going, then it's a whole entirely different game, as you know. So yeah, that's my only concern there. But it's a very small one. But I feel like the Jets have everything. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jets won a division this year. It wouldn't be surprised me if they, win one of the wild card spots too as well. I think they are a playoff team, to be quite honest with you. Like, and I feel a lot more comfortable saying it this year. Last year it was just because Aaron was there. You just thought, okay, they got a quarterback there to go along with their defense. They should be a playoff team. This year I feel confident in saying that because I feel like the aspects of the team have gotten better around Aaron.
Yeah, they definitely improved quite a bit more around him at key spots. Last year was a lot of Aaron and kind of fluff added
Correct.
to a team that should have been better. So, yeah, no, I'm excuse me, I'm on the same page as you. I just think going into the offseason, it's do they pick up one or two veterans on the free agent market that are still kind of looming out there? Do they add a safety? Probably not, but Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs are out there if you want to make a play there. Do they add a receiver? Probably not. It's probably a midseason thing. Is it a running back? Probably not. Again, they've added quite a
They
few
really
running
don't
backs
need
this
it.
offseason. That's
Yeah,
what
they
I'm
really don't
saying.
need
It's
one.
really
Yeah.
just offensive line. Maybe that's a waiver wire situation. Edge rusher, same thing. So,
Yeah, I could
um,
see to interrupt you. Like, I mean, if Connor McGovern is healthy and cleared, I think he could be a guy that could be a solid backup center. Joe
yeah,
Tippett. So I definitely think that's something I would look at. It would be minor cosmetic moves. It wouldn't be. I don't think it's anything major, because I think they're complete right now. Not necessarily complete in the sense where they're the best team, but complete where they feel like they have a complete whole roster
yeah.
and they feel good about it.
No, I'm on the same page as you. Obviously, appreciate you hopping on. We'll rip another one. Obviously during camp and everything that. The Yankees are the best team in baseball. They have the two frontrunners for MVP.
Here we go.
Me and Antwan will be golfing. We'll do a nice thing during that. But appreciate you hopping on as always. And I'll be back Saturday on the Badlands feed. Devin McCourty will be joining me, which I'm very excited about. He loved terrorizing the Jets for 13 straight years, so excited to hear a little bit about that. But Antwan, appreciate your time as always.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I'll actually be at Fenway for the Red Sox Yankees
Let's go.
series coming up. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.